I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you can please rise, and I'm going to invite Ryan LaPluma of Diamondback Elementary School to lead us in the... Oh, I am so sorry. I got so excited for Ryan, I forgot the pastor. I'm sorry. I'd like to invite Pastor Norm Taylor of the Foursquare Church to lead us in the invocation.
First of all, thank you for having me. If I knew we were going to have such a great turnout, I would have prepared a sermon today. So we have some great kids and great children. That's good. First of all, thanks for the opportunity to pray for this important meeting. Our most kind and benevolent Father, we're humbled at your awesome power. Today is a very important day for the supervisors, for our county, for our community, and for such a time as this. These men and women have been chosen to make decisions that will affect our county for years to come. I pray that you will guide this board in their decision-making process and that they will make the best decisions for our community. In your word, in Jeremiah 29:11, the scripture says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future." And God, we know that you want what is best for us, for our future, for us individually and collectively. So we pray for our nation today that is seemingly under siege from various directions. But we ask that you would help us to stay the course. We ask that you would be with us throughout this day, throughout this week, and we just thank you in the strong and powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor. That was a beautiful invocation. Now I'd like to invite Ryan LaPluma of Diamondback Elementary School to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And for the teachers and students of Diamondback, before we go into executive session towards the end of the agenda, we'd like to get a picture with you and your students. May I have a motion to call for an executive session to be held May 4th, 2015 at 9:30 a.m. or at the conclusion of the regular meeting, whichever is later, for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS Section 38-431.03, A subsections 3 and 4, to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
So moved. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did Buster get that?
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Thank
got
you.
it. Thank you, Buster. I'm sorry, Supervisor Johnson. I lapsed into informality. Item 1, discussion of pending and contemplated litigation claims and demands. Attorney Ekstrom, I believe, will be taking this up at the very end of this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Thank you. Item 2, committee and/or legislative reports. I'll start with Supervisor Johnson. Do you have any reports, Supervisor Johnson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended the Arizona Association of Counties Board meeting on Friday. Of most importance to Mohave County was the 15-16 budget. In 2009, ACO approved a 5% reduction in dues to assist the counties during the downturn. ACO has kept its dues at this level, and the Board of Directors did not request an increase this year. ACO staff, realizing the additional financial responsibility that the state has placed on county governments, suggested another 5% reduction in dues to help counties cope with the losses of revenues. ACO staff will still perform all obligations as they have in the past. The Board of Directors approved this reduction, and we will see a 5% reduction in this budget cycle. Also, I had another webinar on maintaining security in a mobile world, and it was put on by Christy Westfall. She's the director of Vanity Security Services. She went over practical solutions to address mobile security issues. She started by defining what mobile means. Mobile technology is a technology used for cellular communications. Mobile technology has risen and advanced rapidly over the past few years. She had mentioned that the advancement in technology and mobile devices has changed the way our society functions. While most changes have made things more efficient, growing technology has also brought to light some security issues. And stated by talking about the 4 digital ecosystems that make up mobile. Sorry about that, my cell phone went off there. About the 4 that make up the mobile security in the U.S. commerce. The first one is search and advertising. An example of that would be Google. The second is social connections like Facebook. The third is marketplace and logistics like Amazon, and hardware and content like Apple. With the popularity of mobile devices, they're becoming an enabler of business transformations from bring your own device to mobile payment systems. Mobile technology is making consumers and constituents want information accessible everywhere. Government is working on new systems to make information more open to the public, but at the same time, we have to find ways to make it secure. We stated the importance to take risk and embrace this new technology, but having a framework set up for mobile security is important as well. The top mobile challenges are 1, mobile device management, mobile application, identity access management, and data standards. We also went through determining the risk one may face in a mobile world. The first step is to ask ourselves, what are the risks? You will need to think about if there is a chance that the new information could have malware in it. Will having mobile devices create an environment where fraudulent offerings of services could take place? You would need to decide if you're going to have a point-of-sale system and if that will need extra security so it's not compromised. A good rule of thumb is to remember not to leave your data in one place just because it's convenient. It could leave your network open to hackers. Next, it is important to ensure all mobile devices have passcodes on them. 40% of companies do not require passcodes on their mobile devices and subject themselves to security vulnerabilities. When it comes to companies building mobile apps, it's also important to test them before releasing them to the public. 33% of companies never tested their mobile apps to ensure security and ended up losing half their data. The next thing was threshold matrix. It's important to decide where your company falls on the matrix. A critical threshold could result in a loss greater than $20 million in long-term brand name damages. A medium-low threshold impact could have a potential loss of $100,000 and a minor impact. Assessing all your data and technology is a good way to find out where you would be on a threshold matrix should your data be compromised. Where you land on that threshold is also dependent on how much information you make digital and put in the cloud. Next, we went over bring your own device. While this is becoming a popular and cost-saving method, it has several security threats. Among them are software bugs, lost devices, people downloading buggy apps, malicious apps, and untrustworthy employees. An example she gave is why bring your own device is dangerous. An employee's personal phone can receive work email on a work email app. The employee does not have passcode on his or her phone. If the phone is lost or compromised, the work-related data on that phone is also lost and compromised because a passcode was never required. I also talked about the threat of allowing mobile payments. An example she gave was that the government agency allows credit card transactions through their high-tech parking meters. A corrupt government employee was able to steal the credit card information from those meters for their own personal gain. The best way to find out if your company or government entity is ready for a secure mobile world is to set up a test response to an incident. Walk through what might occur should your systems become compromised. From there, it is important to have a policy in place so employees understand the risk and the threat the company or the government and themselves face if cyber attack were to occur. It is also important to train our employees on cybersecurity. Mohave County is in the process of instituting an information technology security policy, and hopefully we'll get that done this year. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. Going on to my right, Supervisor Bishop.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Supervisor Angus.
I just have a little announcement. The Arizona Game and Fish Commission is going to be holding their monthly commission meeting in Bullhead City for the month of May. This is a kind of an honor and an unusual event because they're usually held in Phoenix. So they're going to be talking about things that they want to do in Mohave County and some exciting projects, and Supervisor Bishop and myself will be doing presentations. So I suggest that if you are interested in anything game and fish in Arizona, land, water, wildlife issues, that you come on down. It's going to be held at the Bullhead City Chamber. It's on train, and I'm sure you'll be reading it about the paper, but I'm hoping we have a good turnout because there is an expense by doing this, but they chose Mohave County partly because of our involvement in Willow Beach and how much the community came out for that. So they really like that, and I hope that everyone who's interested will attend.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
It's on
Supervisor
May
Angus.
2nd, Saturday, May 2nd.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Angus. I would encourage everyone to attend that meeting on Saturday, May 2nd. County Administrator's Report.
Mr. Chairman, I have no report today, but I would like to give a special welcome to all the young men and women that have joined us here today, and tell you how honored I was to join you in the Pledge of Allegiance and how proud I was of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, County Administrator Hendricks, and I will echo that. It gives us a lot of hope for the future. May I have a motion to approve the March 16, 2015 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is call to the public. I have no call to the public forums. If there anyone who wants to speak on a non-agendized item, this is your opportunity. Going once, going twice, and closed. Going off to proclamations. May I have a motion to approve the Fair Housing Proclamation month of April without being read?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the proclamation declaring Mohave County a Purple Heart County, and if approved, to have Supervisor Bishop read the proclamation?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Supervisor Bishop, can you read that proclamation for us?
Absolutely. The proclamation reads, whereas the residents of Mohave County have a great admiration for the utmost gratitude for the men and women who selfishly serve their country and this country in the armed forces, and whereas veterans have paid the high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all, and whereas through the contributions and sacrifices of our veterans, our citizens and communities are afforded the ability to maintain the freedoms and way of life guaranteed to all citizens. And whereas many men and women in uniform have given their lives while serving in the armed forces, and whereas many citizens of our community were wounded during combat and earned the Purple Heart Medal in recognition of their meritorious acts of bravery and service to our communities and nation. And whereas the designation of Mohave County as a Purple Heart County will signify a response to the call of duty by recognizing and honoring those brave patriots who are members of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mohave County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim Mohave County as a Purple Heart County, executed this 20th day of April 2015. And I'll be proud and honored to sign this along with the rest of the supervisors. Hoorah.
Hoorah. Thank you very much, Supervisor Bishop. Going on, we have a presentation. Mike Candelas, instruct me here for the edification of our Diamondback Elementary students. He has the initials PE after his name. What would that mean? County Administrator Hendricks.
And thank you for letting me explain that. PE stands for Professional Engineer, and it's an honor that's been bestowed on Mike through his hard work, Mike Candelas through his hard work. He had to intern. First of all, he had to graduate from a four-year university. in engineering, and then he had to intern underneath a professional engineer for at least 4 years, and then get endorsed by his peers. It entails taking 2 very lengthy, very arduous exams, and it's something that I'm sure Mike is extremely proud of. Thank you very much. Thanks.
I put him on the spot, folks. I didn't tell him I was going to ask him that question ahead of time, but I wanted that out there because I see a prospective future engineers out there in the audience. Mr. Candelas.
Thank you, Chairman Moss, members of the board, Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Ekstrom. I do appreciate the chance to come and talk to you today about US 93 corridor. The section that I'm going to talk about today is primarily US 93 from I-40 down to Wickenburg. At the top of this map, you can see a little bit of the piece north of Kingman. We completed that section over the past 25 years probably, completed that to a 4-lane divided highway all the way up to Hoover Dam. And that culminated with the biggest project we've ever tackled in the district, and that was completed about 4.5 years ago, and that was a section up through Lake Mead National Recreation Area. And it coincided with the opening of the Hoover Dam bypass. Today I'm going to talk about the section from 93 down to Wickenburg. When we started this venture some 20 years ago, we divided that section into 3 segments. The first segment was Wickiup to Santa Maria River. That's where we had the bulk of the crashes. It was very hilly, very windy, and very slow. For those of you that might remember driving to Phoenix that way, it could take a long time to get through that middle section. So we focused on that first. And in 2008, February of that year, we had a celebration down at the Burrow Creek Campground on a beautiful rainy day to celebrate the completion of 9 projects over the course of 10 years between 1998 and 2008. That resulted in 36 miles of 4-lane divided highway, which made that not just a beautiful section through there, but a very safe section as well. We invested over $160 million in that construction. Our focus then turned to the north segments, and that's from Wickiup to I-40. Since we started on that segment, we've completed 7 projects. And there's 1 in progress, which is the Antelope Wash project. That's about 10 miles south of I-40. That's going to be complete in June of this year. We're getting very close to having that wrapped up. Then there's going to be 2 projects remaining between I-40 and Wickiup. The first is the Carol Stevens project. The landmark there for reference is Lucia's Restaurant and Gift Shop. That's right at the south end of this segment. The segment's characterized by what you see in the upper left photo. It's very narrow. There are no shoulders. So if somebody drifts off the road right there, there's generally no forgiveness. We've had people roll over and go down those embankments. Unfortunately, we've had several fatalities in that section over the past several years. So this is a very important project for us, and it's one that's currently under design. And then the second remaining project in that section is Cane Springs. That's right about in the middle of that segment. Again, hilly, narrow, and not much opportunity for passing for the semis that you can see here in these pictures. Then the last segment is from Santa Maria south down to Wickenburg. We do have 1 project in progress, and that's actually a Prescott District project, but it's between State Route 71 and State Route 89, down in that section where there's been a lot of head-on crashes over the past years, resulting in a number of fatalities. It is a wide open, flat, good section through there, but people get impatient and pull out into traffic, and there's been, like I say, a lot of fatal head-on collisions down in there. It's going to be 5 miles of 4-lane divided when this project is finished next year, so that's going to be another good one to have complete. So if we look at the corridor in total, the yellow triangles, of course, depict the completed projects, and you can see, short of those 2 projects I just talked about, we're going to be 2/3 of the way finished with this improvement. We do have those 7 other projects down south of Santa Maria. So the reason I come before you today is to ask for your support. We are in the 3rd month of the tentative 5-year program public comment period. Each year, ADOT publishes a tentative 5-year program, and the public and the various cities and counties have the opportunity to comment on the program. The 2 projects that I've talked about, Carol Stevens and Cane Springs, are shown in the development years. They're not funded yet for construction. That comes in the first 5 years. The second 5 years are what we call the development program. Carol Stevens is listed in fiscal year 23 and Cane Springs in 24. That's 8 years and 9 years out. It's a long time to wait for the next improvement project on 93, especially since we're so close to completing that northern segment. So what I'd like to request of the county is your support in the form of a letter or appearance before the Transportation Board on May 15th. There is a component of the Transportation Board meetings in April, May, and June, or March, April, and May, I'm sorry, where it's a public hearing on the 5-year program. So there's a couple opportunities to comment. One is at that meeting, and then the other could be online through this our website, or just a letter, a resolution, whatever is appropriate, to our Transportation Board member, who is Deanna Beaver from Parker. We know that funding is stretched and it's very competitive. Most of our funding these days is being put into preservation, which is badly needed. I don't know that we will have a chance to advance these projects, but what we want to make sure is that from this region, from our district, that the board knows that these are important to us, and that when funding does come available, they'll know that they're important and that we have support to keep them in the program, or hopefully even move them up in the schedule. So that's my request today, and I really would appreciate your support in that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Condellis. I'll start with Buster, our Supervisor Johnson, who's on the phone. I need to learn. I'm a slow learner. Supervisor Johnson, do you have any questions for Mr. Condellis?
No, thank you.
Supervisor Angus?
No, thank you for coming.
Supervisor Bishop?
I have no questions, and I appreciate your being here today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Condellis. I believe this issue is actually coming up as part of the I-11 discussion we're having a little closer. I think it's really one and the same. But thank you very much, and I hope to be there on May 15th.
Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
We're moving on to the consent agenda. I'm starting with Supervisor Angus. Are there any items you would like to pull?
No, sir.
Supervisor Bishop?
24.
Supervisor Johnson?
None.
I need to pull numbers 23 and 27. With that said, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda accepting items 23, 24, and 27?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Going on to item 23. This is to approve the amendment number 1 to contracts number 14-B-02 hot mix and cold mix to McCormick Construction Company, Bullitt City, Arizona, Campbell Ready Mix, Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and Desert Construction, Inc., Kingman, Arizona, extending each contract for an additional 1-year period from April 21 through April 20th, 2016, with all other terms and conditions remaining the same on behalf of the Public Works Department. I have a potential conflict, so must recuse myself from this particular item.
Okay. I make a motion to approve item 23.
I'll second the motion. Oh. Okay. I can still second the motion, though, right?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And for the edification of our Diamondback Elementary students, when I'm the chairman, which means I control the meeting, but if I have a conflict, I have to step back. So the vice chairman, Supervisor Bishop, then takes over for that agenda item.
And I forgot.
There you go. Item 24, approval of award of contract number 15-P-02 Detention Healthcare Services to Correct Care Solutions, LLC, out of Nashville, Tennessee, to provide adult and juvenile inmate healthcare services within the county's designated adult jail facility and its juvenile detention center for an initial 1-year term effective July 1st, 2015, through June 30th, 2016, with county and contractor having the right, if mutually agreeable, to renew the contract for 3 additional 2-year renewal periods on behalf of the Mohave County Sheriff's Office and Probation Department. Supervisor Angus.
Oh, I think this was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Bishop.
Yes, that was mine. And actually, I would like to hear from the commander of the jail. I understand that he's here today, and he can enlighten us a little bit on this contract. So, Commander,
Well, good
the
morning.
floor is yours.
Good morning.
Morning.
This has been a long time coming. This project has actually taken I and several other staff members almost a year. So although it just kind of popped up on your agenda, there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and we're actually quite proud of it. The jail has done a lot of work in the last year, 18 months, to try and control a lot of our health care costs. And as everyone knows from their home experiences, that can be difficult. You never know what is going to pop up. The jail population being what it is, averaging around 500, that's like having 500 kids to try and control their health care. We've worked with Horizon, previously PHS, for a number of years. We have a great business relationship with them. They've been helpful in this process, especially our Health Services Administrator, Margaret Saltzgiver, has helped us tremendously in gathering a lot of the information we needed to work on this. The jail, a lot of people don't know, is accredited through the National Commission on Correctional Health Care. Was the first jail in Arizona to be accredited over 10 years ago. There are currently only 4 in Arizona. Mohave County is still one. The one thing that we looked at is we worked on our bid specifications for the proposal that resulted in this award was to look to providing the best health care that we could and controlling costs at the same time. There's kind of a balance, and sometimes there's a fine line. We're proud of the proposal that we put together. We're excited about the contract that's before you and that we're asking for your approval. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of work with Access in the last 18 months. We've pushed some legislation to change some things. We're excited to see how things work as we move forward. Our new contract will help us control cost inside, will help us control costs when we have to send an inmate out to a hospital or a local facility to receive treatment. Another thing that we're excited about that is contained in this proposal is a transition to 100% electronic medical records. We have boxes and boxes of inmate health records in the jail, and we're trying to get rid of those, but we're excited that this is going to help us with that. The other thing that we're looking at in working with community providers, especially something that's coming to the forefront now is mental health. We're excited to start working with discharge planning so that we can continue a continuity of care, and hopefully as these inmates transition back out into society, they can plug right back into the services that they were receiving, and hopefully prolong the time period between visits back with the jail. Just to brag a little bit with some of the work that we've done with Access, we recently had to send an inmate out of town down to Phoenix for some neurological issues, and wasn't someone that we could release from custody. He needed to be in jail. And we were able to work with Access, and because of the work that we had done, his care is completely covered by Access all the way back to his admission in Kingman, to include the airvac flight from here to Sky Harbor, which was over $70,000. So we're proud of the work that we're doing and trying to control costs. We're excited about this contract. We're excited about a new partnership with Correct Care. They're not new to Arizona, but they've gotten good marks from many of the facilities that they're already in. One of which is Pima County. So I've kind of touched on some of the high points, but I'd be more than happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Supervisor Bishop.
I do have a couple questions. This went out to bid, and I was just wondering how many companies sent back a bid for you to consider?
Through the process, we had, I think it was a total of 7 interested companies that did one of the pre-bid meetings and actually walked through the facility. But when it was all said and done, we only had 3 proposals. Currently, we have Horizon, as I said, that we've had for over 10 years. They were a company that submitted, obviously, Correct Care, and then MTC has a medical company that they have since started, and they were one of the 3 that submitted a proposal.
Good. I know that medical records right now is the #1 security risk for identity theft. I was just wondering if this company has shared with you whether or not they've had a HIPAA audit, or when the last HIPAA audit was that they participated in, and whether or not it was a pass or fail.
Well, I do know that that everything that they do is HIPAA compliant. The medical records integration with the electronic records that they are working with is state-of-the-art and is in compliance with all the HIPAA and other regulations. So we'll be working with, because we're doing electronic records, we'll also be working with IT for some of the web access and firewalls that are going to be needed. So we'll assure that everything is kept secure.
Okay, and then my last question is the recent legislation that was passed. How does that affect how you operate with your jail facility and your medical responsibilities?
The most
with your
recent
inmates?
legislation, which was House Bill 2105, I believe you're referring to, goes into effect the middle of July. And basically what that does is that allows, previously it allowed only jail inmates in Maricopa County who have to send their prisoners out of the facility to receive health care, whether it be in a hospital or a medical facility. It allowed them to receive rates commensurate with the access program to include their capped rates. That only benefited Maricopa County. What we did see is that counties surrounding Maricopa County, who, when they had to send their prisoners out, actually went to a facility inside Maricopa County, they were actually receiving those same rates. So what that does for us, once that goes into effect in July, if we have to send an inmate to receive care at a facility, the billed rate is going to be at the access rates. We're still going to be responsible for those, but we benefit from those lower rates. So again, it's another cost-saving issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Angus, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just have a follow-up to that. What does your department think the savings is going to be because of that bill? And I believe that bill was sponsored by our own Representative Sonny Borelli. So I wanted to thank him publicly for that.
Yes, it was. He's helped, actually worked with us on legislation last year that's been a big benefit. He is a big supporter of Mohave County. As far as the exact savings that will be experienced, that's kind of difficult to project. We don't know when the inmates are going to require outside treatment. We think that between the various IGAs that we have in place with access and now the change in legislation with House Bill 2105, it's tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands
Very good.
potentially.
Excellent.
With health care, you just don't know, but
Right. But it's going to help.
it will help, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Johnson?
Nothing, thank you.
And I have nothing else also. Thank you very much, Commander.
Thank you.
May I have a motion on item 24 of the agenda?
Motion to approve?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Going on to item 27, I also have a potential conflict on this item, so I will turn it over to Vice Chairman Bishop.
I make a motion to approve item 20. I make a motion to approve item 27.
Okay, item 27, setting as the Board of Directors for the Mohave County Flood Control District, approve the contract number 15-B-05, Giard Avenue Detention Basin Grading to McCormick Construction Company, Bullhead City, Arizona, in the amount of $175,939.51, and approve a project contingency of 15% equivalent to $26,390.93 for county authorized essential work to address any unforeseen conditions and/or enable project completion. Total project cost $202,330.44. Funding for this project was originally approved as part of the for year 15 adopted capital budget in the amount of $211,000, sourced to 30534-500-48499. We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Going on to item 42 of the agenda. I'm now opening the public hearing for discussion of possible action, Ray, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-052, establishing Round Valley Road from I-40 right-of-way to the existing guardrail, approximately 0.11 miles, as a county highway for purposes of hard surface cover to reestablish grades for safe traffic conveyance between the guardrails in the Round Valley area when millings become available. I'm opening the public hearing. I'll start with Director Latosky. Okay. Director, I'm going to interrupt you briefly. I'm going to ask for members, because I forgot the process. I'm still new at this a little bit. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing. Director, any comments you'd like to share with us?
Hi, good morning, Chairman Moss, members of the board. The Public Works Department, through the Office of the County Engineer, requests a 0.11 mile section of Round Valley Road. This extends immediately north of the US 93 I-40 interchange, east of Kingman, for the purpose of surfacing it with millings when such millings become available, primarily to ensure that we maintain an adequate guardrail height, as a guardrail flanks both sides of the roadway within this short section. And the millings will help us ensure that that sustained uniform height from the surface of the roadway to the top edge of the guardrail is maintained.
Thank you very much, Director. Is there anyone who has any question of Director Latosky? I'll start with Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing.
Supervisor Angus? Nothing. Supervisor Bishop? Nothing. I have nothing else. Thank you very much, Director. May I have a motion on item 42 of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Going on to item 43 of the agenda. Discussion and possible action. Ray, approve the new prisoner housing rates of $78 per day with a $61 booking fee as determined by the Office of Management and Budget, effective July 1, 2015. I have one person called to speak to the public on this issue. Sorry, Commander. We'll get back to you just one second. And that is Toby Cotter, the City Manager of Bullhead City. Mr. Cotter, welcome back. Yeah, I'm not, my wit is not very original, I admit it.
Thank you, Chairman Moss, supervisors and staff. I appreciate being here today to address the issue of jail fees here in Mohave County. As you may already know or guess, I am opposed to this increase. As I spoke back in 2011 and 2012 to this board, different members at the time, however, the three cities have always been opposed to the formula that's being used, namely depreciation being included in the total jail cost. As the largest municipal payer of jail fees, I'm only speaking on behalf of Bullhead City. As you know, Kingman and Lake Havasu are already sending a significant number of their inmates to La Paz County simply based on the math in front of you. The quarter-cent sales tax paid for the jail. That's our money. We paid for the jail. And now we're paying again for the jail as part of this fee as it relates to the depreciation being included. The county is charging the full cost of depreciation for a public building that was built and financed through our sales tax income. It's the formula you can use. There's no law, county ordinance, GFOA policies that says you should or shouldn't, and you can. And so I can only plead with you to not do that. I've also tried to point out in the past that the underlying formula is just flat out flawed. And I know your staff will not like to hear that from me, and I respect your staff. I appreciate all the work that Mike and I have done together for not only for Bullhead City, but for the greater Bullhead City area in Mohave County. But this is one of those things where it's just business, and I'm just pointing out the facts of, as we see the business formula being used here. Essentially what you do is you take the total costs divided by inmate days. Kingman and Lake Havasu send less people, there's less people using those days. Can I continue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
We will, as a city manager, Bullhead City, you're due a bit of deference.
Thank you, I appreciate that. When you take out depreciation, which is 2.6 plus million, the actual cost would be about $64.50. And simply, if you deduct the revenues that we paid from the previous year, from the 3 cities, MTC, and the Department of Corrections, it would be more like around the $69 range. So if we're running it as a business and we're trying to look at the balance sheet like a business would, you have to at least make some assumptions for the revenues that were collected. That's not being included in this formula at all and never has been. Again, we appreciate our relationship with the county. We are your largest user when it comes to incarceration dates for municipalities in the county. But like all of us, we're looking at our budget saying, how much more can we pay? And so last year, it was well over $615,000. And it's just a lot of money for our city, money that could be going into streets and parks and other services. So I plead with you, not just because we're all searching for that last dime, but using a formula that's fair to Bullhead City and it's fair to the other people who pay the rate. Exclude depreciation, it's $65. Include revenues, it's $69. So my only request is just keep the rate the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cotter. Commander.
Well, good morning again. There's not a lot that I can really speak to on the per diem rate, other than maybe some of the costs that, besides the depreciation, that were involved in this. And that was some of the issues in part that had to do with our healthcare system. The healthcare contract that we previously had, because of some extensions, ended up on a calendar year basis instead of a fiscal year basis. So that caused us some problems with planning and budgeting. And then healthcare being what it is, those healthcare bills come in months and months afterwards. So what we noticed is that there were some expenses that were well above what we had anticipated. There were several $100,000 extra in healthcare costs that we couldn't budget for, but were real costs. There were some facility costs with utilities, and then there were some employee costs that were kind of on the good side because we're filling our positions and keeping them filled. So one thing that we've done from an efficiency standpoint is you just approved the healthcare contract that we think goes a long ways, coupled with all the other oversight steps and protocols that we put in there to include our IGAs with access. We think that we're in the best position that we probably ever have been with inmate health care. So we hope to see good changes with the costs of our healthcare system, working with Steve Letowski's crew and facilities to implement many changes in the plant itself to help bring down our utility costs. Unfortunately, a lot of those cost-saving measures weren't factored in the design, so we're going back and trying to retrofit. We hope to have a lot of good things in the next 6 months in place that will help reduce some of those costs. I would defer to the formula, my friends with OMB, and then if it's appropriate, we do have IGAs with all 3 cities, and one of the clauses in there does address a 60-day notice back to our city friends if there is an increase in the rate. And I would defer to the Sheriff's Office attorney if we need any clarification on that.
Thank you very much, Commander. If you can hold on for a second. Supervisor Angus, do you have any questions for the Commander? No. Supervisor Bishop?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to make a comment. I think Commander Bischoff is doing a wonderful job, and I think that the health care is going to save us a lot of money. I think with facilities, looking at our utilities, that's going to help a lot. And there's several other areas that I've learned that the jail is trying to save money. So I just wanted to commend the commander and say he's doing a good job. So thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Johnson, do you have any questions?
None.
Thank you very much, Commander. I have no questions. Mr. Hepler, our OMB manager, if you can come up and give us a few words on item 43.
Good morning, Gene Hepler, Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Chairman Moss, members, and County Administrator. One of the things to answer, one of the questions that the city manager had is the measuring the full cost of government service. GFOA approved an action on January 2002, which talked about measuring the full cost of government service. The full cost of a service encompasses all direct and indirect costs related to this service. Direct costs include salaries, wages, benefits of employees while they're exclusively working on the delivery of the service, as well as materials, supplies, and other associated operating costs such as utilities, rent, training, travel. Likewise, they include costs that may not be fully funded in the current period, such as compensated absence, interest expenses, depreciation, or a use allowance, and pensions. Indirect costs include shared administrative expenses within the work unit and one or more support functions outside the work unit: legal, finance, human resources, facilities, maintenance, that's technology. Those shared costs should be appropriate in some systematic and related allocation method and methodology that should be disclosed. In 2011, we had an audit by an outside independent auditor that the Auditor General asked us to do, and that report came back in February, I think it was 2011, which approved our model and said that our model was appropriate and where we were pulling costs and stuff. Any question we have is the depreciation. And originally, we've had meetings. In fact, I think, Chairman Moss, you were involved with one of the meetings we had about 2 years ago. The cost that we recommend, and I'm going to show some slides here to you to go over some of the costs in jail per diem.
Mr. Hepler, if I can help you, I really think the main target of the discussion is the depreciation cost. Your other health insurance costs, your salaries, et cetera, are not our issue. We're discussing the depreciation issue.
Okay.
The depreciation was not in the fee last year.
Yes, it was. The depreciation has been in the fee since the new jail was put in place.
Okay. So this is just something that we've been going back and forth about the debate whether or not, okay.
Yes. And one of the things that I want to make clear, on all the fees that we establish and work with, we work with all the different department elected officials. And I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, there's a statute that set fees, or say you can roughly set a fee. And there was a fee that the sheriff set for towing and hearing, and it recommended a certain amount. And we looked at it, it was $150 that the statute said you could charge up to. And we recommended $100, and the sheriff came back and said he wanted the full amount, and the board approved it. Our recommendation to the board, to the sheriff first, and then to the board, is what we recommend. The sheriff and the board can decide what they want to set the fee at. I'll just, looking at the finance department does a calculation too every year. They use historical, we use projected cost. Their fee, if you look at finance historical without depreciation, but putting part of our fee with the depreciation includes the building maintenance. And if you look at finances, jail per diem for historical, last year we should have been charging $72.15. So, in fact, go ahead and put that up.
I have a couple questions for you,
Yes.
Mr. Hepler. What is the current jail fee? What's the current rate?
$69.50.
What portion of the current proposed fee of $78 per day is depreciation?
$2.76.
And that's out of the $69.50?
No, out of the 78.
Okay, so do you know, have you conferred with Mr. Cotter as to his statement that the depreciation, if it was backed out, would reduce it to $69 per day?
No, it wouldn't.
How many conversations have you had with Mr. Cotter, Mayor Anderson, or the city managers or mayors of Kingman and Bullhead City and Lake Havasu regarding this jail fee?
I usually don't make conversation with them. It's the sheriff usually contacts the chief of police and goes through that channel.
Okay. Do you know whether those conversations occurred?
I do not know.
Okay.
To my knowledge, I do not know.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Supervisor Bishop.
Following up on what you just said, I would like to know if there's someone here representing the sheriff that can answer that question. As the sheriff had communications with any of the city leaders or in his chief deputy, who's now acting sheriff. Is there someone here that,
I see someone approaching the podium.
okay.
Good morning. I'm James Chapman. I'm special counsel for the sheriff. Asked you a question, Supervisor Bishop. It's what we did this year, and similar to last year, as soon as we get any indication of kind of the draft numbers from OMB, this year I sent that out to the city attorneys, asked them to distribute that to their cities as far as what that's going to be for planning purposes as early as we can. My understanding, I also don't know if there's been specific communications between the sheriff and any of the city managers, but historically my understanding is that the formula, which apparently most people don't like or don't agree on, that's what gets debated every year. It's the different numbers, because of the different factors, get plugged into that box that nobody likes, and it generates a different result every year. Same formula, as Mr. Hepler said, since the jail started, but different factors going into that box that nobody likes. And then what we do, like I said, is we pass those numbers on as early as we can to the cities so that they can project a budget. But as far as communications about, rehashing the formula and things like that, I think that just occurs like we have this, what we're seeing today, and it keeps rearing its ugly head. One other point, just to, like Don said, Director Bischoff, is the IGA, the statute specifically allows us to recover costs, and my legal opinion is we can recover costs. We put the IGA as more of a framework because the cities are our neighbors. We work well with them. The IGA provides a framework, and one of the clauses, and I'll be the first to admit it, without much teeth, because these are our neighbors and we should be at arm's length with them, is that that we reserve the right and declared that, although it's obvious that we can change the rates, but it says, and we will provide the city's written notice of any change at least 60 days, and that's just good business. So I would encourage you to take some action today, because essentially by the time you meet again next month will be less than that 60 days. It'll be close, but in fairness to them and to live up to our contractual obligations, I think something could be decided today. But as far as your question, I hope I answered it. I don't think there's a discussion that goes over year that, hey, again, this is that, because the premise, in my opinion, is that there's always going to be a dispute, and there always has been a dispute about the box, the formula. We get a different result because different factors get plugged into that box every year.
So in answer to my question, Attorney Shopman, I hope I said that, pronounced your last name correctly, is you communicated this information to the various city attorneys, and what happened after that, you're not sure?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, I want to hear, I'm going to take it at a point of executive privilege and invite Mr. Cotter back down, because I want to clarify a couple things. Hello, Mr. Cotter. The current fee is $78 per day. I thought you stated earlier in your comments that if we took out depreciation, that would drop to $69. Am I incorrect, or did I mishear?
No, that's exactly what I said. And the information that I've received is that depreciation value is $2.6 million. Again, I appreciate the information that was provided to me by Supervisor Angus, which clearly showed on one of the spreadsheets that depreciation had a value of $2.6 million. So if you subtract that from total fees of $15.4 million, that gets you to the reasonable $12.7 million divided by the number of inmate days at 65. Now, if depreciation isn't $2.68 million, then I read it wrong. But it clearly shows on this form that depreciation, this form, I believe you all have it in your packet, right. It says $2,680,901, 17% of the total costs. And Mr. Hepler and I have always been at odds on what the GFOA ruling from the early 2000s means. And so again, we don't need to rehash that. I have a vast difference of opinion on charging depreciation for a building that everybody in this room paid for, and now we're paying for it again, unless you can show me in your budget where you're putting $2.6 million aside for maintenance and a new jail that will be built once this depreciation is fully recaptured. Again, we can all debate whether or not that's the right or wrong policy. The GFOA says they can do it. Doesn't mean it's right. And so we believe that the 2.68 is the number you were given, and so if I'm wrong on that, I apologize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cotter. Mr. Hepler, can you fill in for that last comment?
Yes, and I just got clarity and understanding. What we do is that $2.6 million actually includes a building allowance, so there's about $500,000 that is actually depreciation. The rest of it is building allowance. Building allowance is, this is finance, it's $87,111. Correctional facility is $1,489.89 and $47,775 for assessor costs that we use on building allowance and ground, or excuse me, not assessor. Excuse me, I'm reading wrong line. Building maintenance is $558,558.80. So the actual depreciation is $500 or $5,500 and some dollars.
What do you mean when you say building allowance? What does that include?
Good morning. We use a cost allocation plan as part of our indirect costs. And in that cost allocation plan for the jail, we have building use allowance, which totals $2.1 million. So we take the building use allowance and back it out of the total depreciation of 2.6. That would net $585,000.
What is the building use?
What is it? Finance prepares a cost allowance that factors in most of the general fund departments and does a cost allowance for each department to show what their actual percentage is for general fund departments.
And do we know what that building use allowance pays for?
I'm assuming it pays for maintenance and whatnot for the jail.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does any other board member have a question that they've got to follow up with?
I do. Where is this fund? Is the jail depreciation fund, is there such a thing? Is it?
There was an agreement that the cities had with the county to set some of that money aside, a percentage of it aside.
And it's set aside where?
I'm not aware of that. I know that the county, I know the finance director said that there was some money set aside.
Mr. Hepler, if you can, I'm going to turn the floor over to County Administrator Hendricks.
And I appreciate that, Chairman and Supervisors. I do recall that when we negotiated last year, there was a discussion that we would reserve that fund, and I provided some direction to our finance department to provide that fund in a separate account. I talked to Coral about that. I don't believe that was actually ever accomplished, but it's something that we're trying to identify. She can identify the monies, but it is not being held currently in a separate account.
Thank you very much, County Administrator Hendricks. Does anyone else have any other questions for Mr. Hepler?
Yes.
Go ahead. Supervisor Bishop.
I am still a little confused as to how OMB came up with these rates, what the actual formula is, and whether or not our county administrator was involved in this process at all, because I'm a little confused, and usually he explains things very well to me to where I can understand it, and this one just, I can't get my arms around. I don't understand it. I don't understand the depreciation fund, where it's going, and so, I don't know. I can't vote on something that I don't understand. I'm sorry.
Let's, yeah, I'm going to ask a question here, and then I'm going to call for a motion. Mr. Hepler, if I understand something correctly, and make sure that I'm visualizing this correctly, is when we figure out how much we're going to charge for a per diem jail fee, we look at basically our universe of costs, and then we divide that by prisoner days, our anticipated prisoner days. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman Moss.
The reason I ask is because I'm not a genius, but it occurs to me if that calculation always results in an increased cost, that means we get fewer inmates as cities use other alternatives, which means we get fewer inmate days, which means over time we're in a downward spiral where costs rise and inmates drop because people are looking for different alternatives. And we eventually breed our own competition because they're going to look for alternatives, and there comes a tipping point where it becomes cost advantageous for them to go elsewhere. Am I wrong about that?
Chairman Moss.
Okay. Mr. Hepler is motioning that County Administrator Hendricks wants to say a few words.
And, you know, that's a very astute question, and I believe the exact same document as Director Hepler was referring to also talks about if there's competition or other market means that would require us to choose a different rate or something like that, that would be encouraged to, and something that the same standards would allow us to look at. And I wanted to be very clear on one point, is when you establish these jail fees, there is no organization that tells you what to utilize to establish those jail fees. Our methodology may have been reviewed and approved, but it's solely, I believe, solely the board's choice on how much and what makeup will constitute those fees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, County Administrator Hendricks. And you can sit down, Mr. Hepler. You've been on the hot seat long enough. You deserve a break.
Thank you.
Motion.
Yes, before, Supervisor Angus wishes to make a motion, but I would like to make a comment before that occurs. I will not vote for this as is currently enacted. I do believe that the more discussion has to occur, and whatever motion arises out of this meeting, I would very much encourage Mr. Hepler to meet with the 3 city managers on an expeditious basis. And as soon as that meeting and some consensus is formed, at that time we can call a special meeting if necessary or place it on the next agenda. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to make a motion, being everything I heard. I have a little bit of discrepancy because what I had thought before I came into this meeting, that there was a 25% depreciation that was making it more than last year. Without that, it would be the same. So I was ready to make a motion that we just keep the jail fees the same as it was last year. And that would be without the depreciation, as I understand it.
Before I call for a second, I'll make a comment, and maybe we can, well, first I'll call for a second for discussion purposes. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
If we keep it the same as last year, just carte blanche all the way through, and it turns out that the depreciation does not, or the jail fee does not capture our hard costs, the entirety of them, and I'll call hard costs all costs that don't include depreciation, other things like that, what I'll call the paperwork costs. We could be in a situation where we're taking money out of the general fund now to support the jail.
Well, how I figured that, it was everything that we've heard today about all these savings we're going to have on other things, and, you know, that was just the motion I want to make, that I think we should keep the jail fees the same as last year.
Okay. I said we have a motion and a second, so I believe we should call for a vote. Is there, okay, all in favor? Let's do this by roll call, if we could.
Supervisor Angus?
Yay.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
No.
And Chairman Moss?
No. And the only reason I'm voting no is because there could be hard costs in there that we would then be sinking our general fund budget on, though I very much agree with the motivation behind your motion. I would make a motion that we take no action on item 43 until such time as Mr. Hepler meets with the 3 city managers, goes through the data, and figures out what a fair jail fee is. At the conclusion of that meeting, whether it's a successful result or a not so successful result, that you folks notify me, and I will set a special meeting or place it on the next regular agenda, whichever occurs first.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion.
For the sake of discussion, Mr. Johnson, or Supervisor Johnson, I'm going to let Mr. Hepler step up. He raised his hand.
Chairman Moss, I would like to include the county administrator with that action, please.
Do you believe that you should be there, County Administrator Hendricks?
Absolutely.
Then I will amend my motion to include County Administrator Hendricks. Can you second my amendment?
I will second that amendment.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson, you wish to make a comment for discussion's sake?
Well, that was what mine was going to be. That's what we pay the county administrator for, is to do the negotiations with cities, and I don't believe it's Gene Hepler's place to do that.
I would like both the numbers guy and the chief to be there. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Going on to item 44, discussion and possible action, Ray, Mohave County activities supporting Interstate 11 development. I have 2 items for the call to the public, or excuse me, request to speak form. The first is Deborah Adler. Miss Adler, are you available? I believe I see Miss, there she is. Excellent. And not to slight State Superintendent Joe Hart, who also filled out the form, but I figured ladies go first.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. My comments are brief. My name is Deborah Adler, and I reside at 3661 Heather Avenue here in Kingman. And I come to you today as someone who recently moved from Columbus, Ohio. Not so much for the weather as you might expect, but because as a businesswoman, I see great potential for the economic development and growth here in Kingman. And I'm hoping that it's not taking us off topic to simply cite an article in this month's Economic Development Journal of Mohave County that reported that a gentleman is investing $8 million to build a La Quinta Inn here in Kingman. So perhaps I'm not the only one who sees the potential of this great city. I simply wanted to say to you, and I appreciate the opportunity to go on record and say that I believe that the development of the Interstate 11 interchange will be a benefit to the city of Kingman and integral to our development. That's pretty much what I had to say. That it is something that is of great importance It's wonderful to see these young people here today, and I believe that, if I may, there's a message we can send to our young people. There's basically two choices that our children get in any city, and that is, do they have to leave for more opportunity, or can they stay and know that they have an excellent opportunity for prospering and to raise family in safety and good fortune. And I believe that the development of the interchange is, as I said, integral to that, and I thank you for this time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adler. Next person who signed up to speak is State Mining Inspector Joe Hart. Mr. Hart. And for the edification of our Diamondback Elementary School students, Mr. Hart is elected as their state mining inspector. He's a statewide constitutional official. It's his job to make sure that our mines in the state of Arizona are safe.
This could be considered child abuse, bringing children like this down to a place like this.
We're hoping there's a few future county supervisors and mayors in that bunch, so.
I'm sure there are a few. Chairman Moss and members of I come to you again about Interstate 11. I can't sleep at night worrying about we're not going to have everything ready, and when it comes, and they may look at an alternative route that's quicker, cheaper, and it's going to be the best economic development tool Kingman, Arizona has ever seen. They're talking about Needles, California being the inland port. Why not leave those trucks on Interstate 40 another 60 miles, and they can come up and intersect with Interstate 11, open up traffic to the Pacific Northwest, to the Rocky Mountain areas, clear all the way back to Southern California with other issues. The opportunity we have right now, though, is the window of opportunity is getting narrower, because as we heard this morning or earlier, that most all of the other road work is done, and it scares me to death to think that we don't have an adequate funding source and plans for the 93 North interchange. To me, that's the bread and butter to keep the tourists and everybody in Kingman. Let's invite them into our town and tell them what we're all about. I'll give you a little history. Back in '93, I had Rattlesnake Wash in the 5-year plan with all of the money. I was told that no, we didn't want to do it then, we just wanted the permission to do it. I said, well, if you pull it out of the 5-year plan, we'll never get it back. And that's consequently what happened. But if you want to see what happens if they get bypassed, go to Seligman, Williams, Ash Fork, and it's something we can't take that gamble on. And there is money, there is funding available. The airport authority, I'm done.
You can disregard that, Mr. Hart.
I'm waiting for the hook to come get me. Where was I? The airport authority, one of my proudest moments when I first got elected to the state legislature in '93, I had the privilege of bringing Governor and the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate to Kingman. And when we flew into the airport, they were just all amazed at how that airport was such a bustling outfit. And I told them we had X number of people that were working there and what an economic boom it was. And that it was just very, very important to the community. And they saw the value immediately. But we're not seeing it. It seems that we're afraid we don't have the money. There's money out there that's available. The airport authority has money to do the Rattlesnake. If we go ahead and do a P3, public-private partnership, we can get funding and guarantee that we have the money. This is going so rapidly right now. If anybody been to Phoenix lately, you see outside of Wickenburg how much they've got about another 10, 12 miles that's already done, and down there it's all alluvium fill and no major bridges, and it can just increase rapidly in that area. We have got to be ready. Nevada's got money available to get it onto to Nevada, and Senator Reed has got the access to that money, being in leadership, and Barbara Boxer wants it to come all the way over to the California line, because that way it gets all the truck traffic off the coastal highways, and it frees up all of their roadways over there. It's just time. It's the first time in 51 years, or over 50 years, there's been an interstate built in the state of Arizona, and luckily, or in the West, not only the state, and we want to be a part of it, and we've got to be ready to do this, and I appreciate all your support and your effort to make a coalition, but we just need to beat this drum as loud and as long as we can right now and make sure we are ready. I'll answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hart? I know he's speaking on a call to the public considering his statewide office. I think I'm waiving that particular issue. Nothing? I have
a question.
Sure.
Mr. Hart, is it your recommendation that we put together some kind of a community organization to meet and make plans and recommendations for a public-private partnership? Is that what you would like to see Mohave County, specifically Kingman, do?
Absolutely, and use your influence with the governor and your state legislators and everybody else to say, you know, we need this. It's very, very important. When you talk about an inland port, like I've said before, they're saying Needles, California is going to be that inland port, and we need to have it to where it comes right to that Kingman Airport, because that's where it's going to. But time is of the essence. I'm just afraid they're going to just one day say, we're going to go ahead and finish this thing in the next 90 days, and we won't be ready at all. I'd rather be ready to go and not have to worry about last minute selling the farm just to get it, the money. It's there, you know. There's always adequate money to do everything else government wants, and this is just part of being government and public service. It's any of you travel that road, I see major accidents every week. The gentleman from ADOT talked about the passing zone. All those do is make people aggravated, and when they get the opportunity to pass, they stay out in that passing lane and pass 7 or 8 or 10 trucks, and immediately we have a wreck. I travel it usually every week or 3 or 4 times a month, and I mean, it is a dangerous, dangerous road, and the most dangerous part of it is from Santa Maria to Wickiup, and we're seeing a lot of improvement in Wickiup.
Mr. Hart, I do have, I guess it's half question, half comment. Now, the I-11 interstate issue that you brought to us last meeting, that had to do with the location of the I-11 interchange. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Where is that intend? What are the 2 locations that interchange is being contemplated, if you know? One is the area vicinity of Kingman. The other is in the vicinity of where exactly?
The other interchange is at Rattlesnake Wash, east of Kingman.
Okay, east of Kingman. All right. So, and then there's another issue that segued into that, which is the inland port issue. Am I correct in that? They're separate issues?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I say that is I was approached by the mayor of, or excuse me, the city manager of Needles 3 months ago, I think it was, maybe more. And he did tell me about Needles trying to become an inland port and ask for my support. I said, absolutely, sure, why not? And so now what I understand is Kingman is considering to becoming an inland port also, because I think I heard Mayor Anderson mention that at the meeting at the Lincoln Day dinner.
Mr. Chairman, Needles is in California. Let's take care of Arizona.
Well, they're also neighbors, but go ahead.
I know.
Okay.
There's enough to go around.
Sure.
There's adequate for both of us to benefit from this.
Okay. All right, so we have, and the I-11 interchange, is that going to be part of the discussion on May 15th in Chino Valley, do you know?
I believe it will.
Okay, because I just texted my staff and asked to put that on my calendar so I can be there, because I do believe that we need to protect Kingman to the extent that we can.
Well, we sure appreciate your interest.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Was there anything that Mr. Candelas would like to add to this discussion that might be relevant or informative or suggested?
I can certainly talk about I-11 and the interchange.
If you'd like to come down, Mr. Candelas. And specifically, when you talk about the prospective interchange locations, what recommendations can you make to Mohave County that we could use to press a Mohave County view as to where that interchange should be located? I'm not asking you any questions about inland ports.
Okay, good, because I don't have any answers on those. To clarify one thing, the US 93 I-40 interchange, we've studied that for the past several years. We've had public meetings on that. We've established the location to be just east of the existing interchange, where you go up Beale Street up to 93. So we've completed the design concept report, and we've identified the location that more or less goes from Clack Canyon up behind the businesses and joins into US 93 up on Coyote Pass. So that has been identified as the I-11, if you will, interchange for that area. We have a price tag on that. Our estimate right now is $88 million. It can be phased, so the first phase would take care of the more or less the Phoenix to Vegas traffic and the reverse for $55 million. In comparison, the two projects that I talked about on US 93, Carroll Stevens and Cane Springs, those are projects that'll be in the $30 to $35 million range. So that interchange will be more than twice what this project is. The Rattlesnake Wash interchange we did have on the program several years ago. That serves a different purpose. That will provide direct access to the airport, but it's not considered an interchange that will serve US 93. There'd have to be a connection somehow from the airport over the mountain to get back to US 93. So two separate projects, both important to the area, and the thing they have in common is neither are funded right now. And neither of them are on the tentative 5-year program, but public comments on these would certainly be welcome at the Transportation Board meeting in May.
Thank you very much, Mr. Candelas. Mr. Hart, does Mr. Candelas' comments raise any other questions or any other advice you'd like to give us on the interchange issue?
Yes, he has. So if this interchange goes out the other side of the existing interchange, all of the traffic northbound will miss the opportunity to stop at Kingman unless they get off at Rattlesnake. I've always maintained that we need two interchanges in the city limits of Kingman to make sure we can. The reason that it's so important it's 100 miles to Las Vegas, it's 120 miles to Phoenix from Kingman, so we're right in the middle. And we've always been the comfort station for everybody that travels that highway for years and years. And now if we're going to be limited to just one bite at that apple as they come through Kingman, Arizona, it sort of upsets me. The fact that we could just stack this interchange, this is not something that we just have to do in a knee-jerk reaction. This is going to have benefit for us for many, many, many years. Let's do it right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Hart. Thank you very much, Mr. Candelas. This is my personal view, is that we really don't need to take any action on item 44 at the present time. I think it's more incumbent at board members, if they can, or staff members if they attend the May 15th ADOT meeting in Chino Valley for purposes of getting some more information and figuring out what we can do, considering we don't have obviously don't have the funding to build the interchanges. So can I have a motion that we take no action on item 44 at this time?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Buster, did you get that?
Got it.
Got it. Excellent. I see we have some very antsy students in the audience, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting for a 5-minute break, and we'll come back in 5 minutes.
Take a picture.
Yeah, and students don't go anywhere because us politicians want to say hello to you for a few minutes. got to go to work. I'm reconvening this meeting. Supervisor Johnson, do we have you on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. Going on to item 45, discussion of possible action. Ray, adoption of BOS resolution number 2015-067, abandoning that portion of Tom Reed Road adjoining lot 3 to 5, parcel plat book 12, page 27, measuring 40 feet in width by 630 feet long, containing .58 acres, more or less, and further approve the abandonment to be processed and rights-of-way purchased by Arizona State Statutes, Title 28, Chapter 20, Article 8, at no cost to Mohave County, located in the Golden Valley area, District 4, Mohave County, Arizona. I have one person signed up to speak on this item, Mr. Jeff Stoddard. Mr. Stoddard. If you approach Mr. Stoddard, if you can state your name and your residence, and you can have up to 3 minutes to make your comments to the board.
Good morning. Yeah, my name's Jeff Stoddard. I live at 3003 South Tennessee Road, Golden Valley. Yeah, I thought we had this resolved last year. Apparently it can be brought up again over and over or whatever. We own impacted property adjacent to the rear portion of Tom Reed Road that will be abandoned. We physically use the Tom Reed Road to access our property by ATV and foot. Physical access to the rear portion of our property is severed by the proposed abandonment. The abandonment will negatively impact the enjoyment and value of our property and render it nearly inaccessible for all practical purposes. Okay, it's hard to even get a picture of the terrain without actually physically viewing it. I'll try to give you an accurate picture real simply. The property's on a mountain that goes straight up and down. Tennessee runs along the front. Tom Reed runs along the back. To access my back property, rather than the hazardous and physically demanding climb and descent over the top of the mountain, we drive around the mountain to the Tom Reed access, which offers much less steep terrain and partial ATV access. Closing Tom Reed would abandon and isolate the back of my property and makes it extremely difficult to physically access. So I please ask the supervisors to vote not to abandon Tom Reed, as they did in the recent past, and allow my family to enjoy easier access to the back property for generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Do you have any questions for me?
None right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, this is under Mr. Latosky. Mr. Latosky.
Hello, Chairman Moss, members of the board. Staff has placed this item on the board agenda in accordance with the Arizona State Statutes guidance on processing abandonments. Staff processed this at the board's direction in accordance with Arizona State Statute 28-6701C, abandonments of county highways. Staff, as part of facilitating the abandonment notices, did provide written notice to all the abutting property owners, as well as posted the abandonment for a period of 30 days. And I did put up on the counter here a photo of the condition of Tom Reed Road. This is taken looking north from the intersection of Tom Reed at Gatto. This would be the southerly boundary of the proposed 630-foot abandonment of Tom Reed Road adjacent to the property of Mr. Robert Jack. On the west side of the property, on the west side of Tom Reed, excuse me, is BLM lands.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Latosky?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Johnson.
Can you tell me why this is brought back again, Mr. Latosky?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, Mr. Robert Jack, the applicant, has brought it back for consideration under a new petition, and state statute as well as county guidelines do not prohibit applicants from resubmitting petitions, even those petitions that have been previously acted on.
Is there anything else, Mr. Johnson?
No,
Supervisor
that was all.
Johnson?
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Any other questions?
What is the purpose of abandoning it?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Angus, perhaps the applicant can embellish a bit on the purpose, but this is on the western end of the subdivision for which the applicant lives in. Mohave County does not maintain any roadways in the area, and it would be just my assumption that the applicant desires to accrue the additional acreage, 0.58 acres adjacent to his property. As well as I should point out that Unisource Energy, we did reach out to them, and they do request if this abandonment were processed that a 20-foot public utility easement be retained for future utility use.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Supervisor Bishop.
This property is in my area, so I did go out and physically look at the area. I visited the location myself, I walked it, and I now have a good understanding of the terrain. The portion of Tom Reed Road has never been more than a paper road, and it runs parallel to the wilderness area boundary where vehicles are prohibited. So the resident that just complained, I believe, does not live in an adjoining property. There's a mountain between his property and the location where we're considering the abandonment of this road. So I don't see any reason why this should not be approved. And the reason for the request by the property owner was so that he would have an area large enough to build a small building or a residential home, I believe. So with that in mind, I would make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm voting no.
I'm voting no.
Oh, okay.
Wait, are we voting, can I have a recap here? Are we voting for was your motion to abandon?
To abandon.
To keep, okay, the motion was to abandon.
Yes.
Yes. So it's 2-2. What's the process here, Mr. Ekstrom? I take it doesn't pass. Can we do another motion?
Yeah, we do another motion, Mr. Chairman. A 2-2 vote does not pass.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we continue this item to the next, that we continue this item to the next meeting to give the applicant, Supervisor Bishop spoke of, the opportunity to appear and discuss this issue, and we can then consider it at that time. Okay. Sir, if you'd like to come down and say a few words.
Well, I really don't need to say anything other than the topography does not allow for people to drive on that so-called road. And the reason I wanted is to basically go
Okay. If I don't think the record is taking your comments from back there. If you'd like to come forward and speak.
Robert Jack, 3387 South Vivian, Golden Valley.
Okay.
This was up before the board before, and Mr. Stoddard said he uses the road to access the back of his property, which I had Supervisor Bishop come out and go for a hike. I mean, it is a hike. There's boulders that cover the entire road, and you cannot drive to the back of Mr. Stoddard's property. There's no way. So I'm just trying to get enough property to build a residence, but what Mr. Latosky said, I'd never heard that before. Is that access or easement on Tom Reed Road, the 20-foot?
Mr. Latosky?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as part of processing and abandonment, Public Works reaches out to all of the potential affected stakeholders, including utility providers, and Unisource Energy had responded to us by requesting the board consider establishing a 20-foot public utility easement. It does not exist presently because we have fee title right-of-way established, but if the abandonment were to process, Unisource is requesting, and we have placed in the resolution, a 20-foot reservation for an easement, public utility easement.
How does this abandonment affect that?
Mr. Chairman, should the board abandon Tom Reed Road, there would be no rights remaining for both the county or any utility providers to utilize that space. Hence, Unisource Energy would request the 20-foot easement be placed so that they would have right for develop facilities in that easement for future use.
I'm confused. So they want us to keep the right-of-way so they can have an easement, or they want us to get rid of the right-of-way so they can get the easement?
I apologize, Chairman Moss. Should we get rid of the right-of-way, should the right-of-way be extinguished, Unisource would ask that a 20-foot easement be established for public utility use only.
And
But if the action does not go through, Unisource would drop their comment because the right-of-way exists.
and then they would use the right-of-way for their easement or for their power line, or?
Correct. They would use the newly established easement for a potential future electric distribution expansion.
But if we don't abandon it, they would use the right-of-way for that purpose?
Well, Chairman Moss, it's possible that Unisource could, in the future, use the right-of-way for that purpose through a franchise with the county.
Any other questions from a member of the board? Because I will say I'm thoroughly confused. I will say that last year, when this came before us, I have a very clear recollection, and my interpretation is that we had two squabbling neighbors. That's what it was. I knew nothing about a residence back then, nothing about Unisource. And so I am at the point where I don't know whether we should be doing this or not. So I'm going to modify.
Can I make a comment?
No, sir. I'm going to make a motion. What's that?
You might want to withdraw.
At the urging of Supervisor Bishop, she would like you to make a comment. Go ahead.
Well, the southern portion of Tom Reed Road is back behind another parcel that I have. We had that road abandoned. There was no question from Unisource in the past to have an easement. The whole idea is that the setback from the 40-foot of road and 5 feet setback, 45 feet, is where I have to start building. But with the road abandoned, then I can build within 5 feet of the boundary line to the wilderness. Now there's a 20-foot easement that basically just blows it out of the water. So I don't know what's and there's never going to be any residence on the west side of Tom Reed. I mean on Tom Reed. There's no way it physically could anyone build there because it just goes into a mountain.
Okay.
You saw Mr. Latosky's picture.
I think I have a much better understanding now. I'm going to make a motion that we continue item 45 to the next regular meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. There's been no action taken on this item. It'll be considered at the next regular meeting.
Thank you.
Item 46, discussion and possible action, Ray, approve and set a working session with the Board of Supervisors and the Treasurers regarding investment portfolio reporting. Treasurer Cox.
Good morning, Supervisors and Board. I put this on the agenda because I'd like to be able to have your input as to what you'd like to see with investments, because I don't know if you've had the opportunity to view any of our investments or the reporting that is done on a quarterly basis or monthly basis for that matter, and I'd like to get the board's input as to what you'd like to see so I can present that to you on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you, Treasurer Cox.
Thank you.
Is there any comments from any member of the board or any questions? Supervisor Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couldn't we just put this as a regular item instead of a special meeting?
Would that work for you, Treasurer Cox, is to add it to one of our future agendas and have basically a workshop during a regular meeting?
I don't know how that works. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll turn you over to County Administrator Hendricks, and you and he can discuss what you want to do and how to best to affect it, but that will occur during one of our regularly scheduled meetings.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
Thanks.
I don't think there's any need to take any action on item 46. Going to item 47, discussion of possible action, Ray, review of financial records of Mohave County Water Authority. This was put under my name I believe some items were provided, backup material, bylaws, financial statements, things of that nature. I placed it on the agenda and provided that information at the request of Supervisor Johnson. I do believe we have, the Mohave County Water Authority has also posted the most up-to-date financial statements on their website. Is Coral Lloyd available? Is she here? I see Miss Lloyd coming down. If you can fill us in on the details of this item, Ms. Lloyd, and what's been done to get things up to date for our review and for the public's review. For those who don't know, Carol Lloyd is our Mohave County Finance Director, and in her past life, she assisted with the Mohave County Water Authority's financial reports.
Good morning, it's Coral.
Did I say Carol again?
You did.
I hereby authorize Supervisor Bishop to stab me with a pen every time I make that mistake.
I didn't have any communication with Mohave County Water Authority, but this was information actually that I was able to retrieve from previous files. With the City of Kingman, I did assist the treasurer, typically has been the mayor of Kingman, and Kingman predominantly receives the financial, the money, 90% of the funds that originate from the sale of water rights goes back to Kingman. So therefore, I was heavily involved with preparing the quarterly reports to the board, the Mohave County Water Authority Board, as well as involvement with the auditors doing the annual financial review. The information provided, I believe, was the last 4 years of the audit reports, and then the November 30th quarterly report included a lot of the bulk information for the sale of the water, how each of the entities that were purchasing water, how they've paid over the period of years, what the price per acre foot of water was, what the holding fee was, and how the CPI adjustments went into that. Overall, I didn't show any particular schedules at that meeting of individual billings, but all of the billings, I believe, are there back to the initiation of the Water Authority.
Well, thank you very much, Coral Lloyd. I do appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Lloyd? Seeing done, I don't think there's any need for us to take any action on item 47 either, as more of an informational item.
I have a couple questions, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
Or maybe more of a statement, something that people can get back to us on. I appreciate the amount of backup you gave us. It gave us quite a look into the Mohave County Water Authority, and in reviewing the financial records, I'm unsure as to whether the records that were provided going back to 2011, the schedule of revenues and expenditures, provided the answers so much as highlighting questions that probably need to be addressed now. The first and most basic question I have, and I ask it in recognition of the Sunset Clause movement that was so popular some years back, has this Mohave County Water Authority achieved its purpose, and is it time for the authority to be sunsetted? I see that we have, as of June 30th, 14 administrative expenses of $155,744. I'm just curious what we're getting for these expenditures. Are we simply rolling out a boilerplate legal language for any and all transactions and then getting charged a healthy legal fee, or is there something more that I'm not seeing? The authority was originally set up to provide a means to transfer 18,500 acre foot of fourth priority Colorado River water rights to other communities from Kingman. I also note on page 22 of the notes of the financial statements, June 30th, 14, the following quotation: the authority is a local government that is governed by a separate appointed board of directors. End of quote. Now my question is, was the original intent of the legislation and the formation of the authority to have yet another layer of government? By statute, there are certain levels of government aside from counties and cities and towns like sanitary districts. However, I question whether this authority is actually a government based on language I see in ARS Title 45, Article 13. Given that we appear to have evolved another layer of government which may serve to obscure public accountability, I would like someone to answer questions whether or not any government activity carried out by the authority on behalf of its founding members cannot in fact be carried out by the local governments that created the authority. If the authority's purpose now is to continue seeking additional Colorado River allocations, can't the local governments do that themselves? the activities that I see undertaken now that are costing us or the public money appear basically to be legal services presented to us to the tune of over $10,000 per month. Who is providing oversight to ensure that we are being charged comports with a fair and exploitative service? Am I correct that millions of dollars have passed through the Water Authority for the past 20 years, but the city of Kingman is still owed over $2 million for the creation of the authority? I would just conclude by saying that I'm glad this matter was brought before us at this time. I appreciate Supervisor Moss giving us all the information, because if we're truly looking at minimizing the size, scope, and duplicity nature of government, maybe we should start here and begin looking at exercising some of the duplication. That's all I had, and thanks again for all the information you provided, Chairman Moss.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. I will say that if you have, I think I got some of the questions you had in that statement, but if you wanted to email them to me or have your staff email them to me, I will flip them over to the Water Authority so they can have an opportunity to give us what answers they have from their perspective. Some of those questions I cannot answer. I do know the funding comes primarily from the 3 cities. The Mohave County share, I think, is roughly $600 to $700 right now currently. I don't know the exact figure. The cities spend tens of thousands each on the Mohave County Water Authority. And I believe they use the MCWA for purposes of lobbying and intervening at committee levels in various places for purposes of safeguarding the city's interests in water. But past that, I can't tell you all that much. So, thank you. Going on to item 47, past 47, there's no need for further action there. I'll follow up with Supervisor Johnson, the Mohave County Water Authority, at a later time. Going on to item 48, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mohave County Television Improvement District, discussion of possible action, Ray, dissolution and privatization options for the Mohave County Television Improvement District. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. I asked Chairman Moss if I could sort of make this overall statement before we start this discussion. I brought this item up to start a discussion about the possibility of privatizing the TV district or making it self-supporting. I want to make this clear. I am not suggesting we turn it off. That may come up for discussion later on, but that is not what I am proposing. The district now has approximately $3.3 million in its fund. What that means, in my estimation, is that we've been taxing too much, and we always have been. We know that back in 2011, there was over $8 million in the TV district fund, and the last board voted to take that money, and they used it to pay down the debt for the jail building. Taking the money from the fund is not a new or outrageous idea. We did lower the rate last year, and we thought that that was a good start. This year, the county will have a $2.4 million shortfall in its budget. This is a shortfall not of our making, and it was thrown in our lap last month. This is because the state shifted costs to the county to balance their budgets. So the state gets to say they didn't raise taxes, but it made it almost impossible for the counties not to. When I was approached about the possibility of raising taxes either by a property tax or an excise tax, I said I will not vote to raise taxes. I believe I've come up with this plan that will solve and I admit readily that is a short-term fix for this budget problem, and in addition started discussion about the future of this TV service in Mohave County. What I would propose is that we dissolve the district altogether. According to the statute, the money from that fund would go into the general fund. That would take us through this year's shortfall. The rest of the money would be put aside and allocated only for paying for the costs associated with the service to run the TV system to keep the broadcast going for a period of about 2 years. During that time, I would like the staff to start immediately. I'd like the staff to come back with ideas on how we can privatize or have the networks who have been, basically running their commercials for the last 10 to 20 years for free, how we could perhaps have them pay a small fee towards maintenance, somehow just make this self-supporting. And these are just ideas, just an opening a discussion. I know that this is a very sensitive subject in this county, the TV district, and what it was first started out, what it meant, and what is now has become. The technology is changing. I asked Jack Trahan, I have spoken to Jack Trahan, who owns WeCom, who does the maintenance and service. We have discussed that the technology is changing, and And whether we like it or not, things will be changing. So I think that this is a good opportunity to start this discussion now and before it sort of just creeps up on us. And I want to thank Mr. Trahan for sitting here for the last 2 hours while we've gone through the rest of the meeting. And with that, I'm sure my fellow supervisors have other things to say about this.
First off, thank you very much, Supervisor Angus. I think we should now, as you have defined the parameters of what you were proposing in item 48, take comments from the public. We have many people who have signed up to speak on this item. I will start with Kenneth Works. Mr. Works, if you can come to the podium, state your name and your residence, and you will have 3 minutes to share your thoughts with the board. It does not look like Mr. Works is present, so I will then close it as to Mr. Works. Our next person signed up to speak is Mr. David Brusby. I hope I stated that name correctly. Mr. Brusby, if you'd approach the podium and take a few minutes to share your thoughts with the board.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. You did pronounce the name correctly, which is unusual. I do want to thank you and the board members for the opportunity to speak. And apparently I'm not quite as comfortable here as I thought I might be. I'm speaking in opposition to the dissolution of the TV system. I'll address maybe the privatization at the end here. What's the best kept secret in Mohave County? It's this television system. About almost a year ago, my wife and I decided that we wanted to cut the cable. And she says to me, because she keeps the budget, we pay for TV on our taxes. We don't have to keep paying the cable company. So we called the county offices to try to get more information about it. No one that we spoke to was able to provide information. They referred us to Suddenlink. We knew that, excuse me, we knew that wasn't correct. It's only by our personal association with a former supervisor that we were given a name of someone to call in the county who directed us to the right location to find it. You've got a really helpful employee there, and I'm very sorry I don't know his name, but he gave us some really good information, direction on how to do this. And with a modest investment at Radio Shack, we've been enjoying television over the airways for nearly a year. If we choose to privatize, I would be opposed to eliminating that because we are still paying that tax, and I'm not sure whether Supervisor Angus' recommendation is to eliminate the tax altogether or not. But we are paying for this already. So if it goes private, is it the board's intention then to use that tax money to provide the company the funds to keep the system going, or are you going to turn us over to predatory providers like cable dish services? If it can be managed in a similar way through the taxes and continue the service, I think that's excellent. I would really oppose turning it over completely to a private company because they don't have a good track record. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, sir. The next person who signed up to speak was Stephen Robinson. Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson is not present. I will go to the next person. Next person who signed up to speak was Herberta Schroeder. Ms. Schroeder? If you can state your name and your residence, and then you have a few minutes to make some comments.
My name is Herberta Schroeder, and I live at 1901 East Andy Devine in Kingman, and I appreciate the chance to speak. If you make this TV district privatization, you have to look at the fact that either the television channels, the television networks are going to have to pay for that private holder to transmit their programming, which in today's economy I don't think they're going to do because that means they have to increase their advertising, or the company that takes it over is going to have to find a way to charge the residents, and there's no current way to tell who's using free airwaves. So you run into a problem with maintaining the same kind of programming that we have now that's free. And you have a large number of people that are on fixed incomes. And we're talking SSI, which is right around $600 a month, SSDI, which is right around $981 a month, and pensioners from Social Security, anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400 a month. So on those limited amounts, you have to fit in rent or house payment and groceries and utilities, which are always going up. And with privatization coming in and coming around and saying, okay, everybody has to pay X amount, you're looking at a can of worms. You could just leave it as it is, and then when you have an excess, take that excess to use, just like you've been taking funds from the Mohave County parks when they have a seeming excess. There's no law against using the excess to better the county. But I think you would be doing an extreme disservice to people who live in outlying areas on fixed income that cannot afford to go with cable, don't want to go with satellite. Personally, at our business and a lot of other motels, they use the free airwaves along with Dish because you get the local Phoenix News and so forth and not have to pay so much to Dish. So please keep in mind that privatization is not necessarily the golden goose that you think it would be, and that $2.2 million would only last you a certain amount of time, where we've had this for many years, and the company that's been taking care of it has done so very effectively. Whenever something goes wrong, they're up there within 4 hours. You're not going to get anybody else to do that. They're also dodging lightning, and I have pictures of lightning surrounding their sites. So, I think we have a good deal, and we need to leave it alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am. Next person signed up to speak is Mr. Butch Merriweather. Mr. Merriweather.
My name is Butch Merriweather, and I live at 2225 South Dome Road in Golden Valley. I hadn't planned on speaking on this issue, but one of the supervisors asked me to express my thoughts and suggestions. I personally believe that the county needs to get out of the business of the TV district. I'll give you a prime example of somebody who uses it. I have a friend who lives in Auburn, California, comes down about 2 months out of the year, and he uses the little black box and he keys in thing. He gets 32 channels pointing at Wallapai, but he can spin his TV antenna around and get all of the Las Vegas stations. So why should the county supplement the TV for just a minute few people? I mean, I've heard figures 100,000 people, but my crystal ball doesn't say how many people. How are they going to gauge if somebody's viewing it? They don't know. That's just an estimate. But I think that the money could be best used elsewhere in the county for all the residents instead of a minute few. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Merriweather. The next person who signed up to speak is Mr. Joe Hart, our state mining inspector.
Chairman Moss, members, I'd like to take you back in time a little bit about what Kingman TV used to be. I can remember as a lad, we had the only TV set in Kingman. My dad had a tower in the backyard of our house that was about 40 feet high. And if you wanted to change the channel, somebody had to be at the TV in the front of the house and holler back at somebody that had a pipe wrench back there turning the antenna. If we wanted a Phoenix channel, we had to turn it south. If we wanted Las Vegas, we had to turn it north. I don't think we want to go back to that. Then along comes Kite Trahan, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, when they started working on this TV for us. I can remember as a lad that there was about 5 or 6 of my closest friends. We'd always rush home so we could watch the Mickey Mouse Club. And sometimes we do have to provide public service, and I think this is a good opportunity. And as far as the maintenance on the TV district, I've been up on that mountain. I broke down on that mountain. I know a lot of you have been up there, but I don't think you've been up there in the middle of a snowstorm. Jack Trahan has a motorized Caterpillar, basically, with tracks just for mud. There's times that I can't even get to my site, and Jack's always there to take care of the radio and TV. I have to maintain 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service on my radio station because we're the authorized EBS station, and for all of Mohave County, we take all the emergency notices out of Las Vegas, and we have to broadcast any emergency areas that they're like that. I could not do this by myself. Jack Trahan has provided a serious service that, and I know that everybody wants to cut costs. I do too. I find myself right now about in the same situation as Duval. My expenses have tripled and my income's cut in half. If we had a good, robust economy, I think there might be an opportunity to privatize. But in this circumstance, I just don't see it being feasible, and it does affect a lot more people than you believe. If you would like for me to start giving out your phone numbers to people calling when my TV goes down, I'll do that. You would find out in a hurry there are a lot of people that do pay attention, and that's all the TV that they can get. It's just an opportunity for us. I understand, I'm a businessman and I want to cut my costs too, but it's really tough right now. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hart.
Thank you very much. And yes, I've been up on the hill with Jack Trahan too. Did it once, probably won't do it again. I was a little scared up there, fear of heights. Do you see any way that the county or that the district could become self-supporting? I mean, I'm not saying that, we're making money just to pay for the, relatively small maintenance and service through these channels that come in that have aired their signals and, their commercials for free in our county for many, many years. Being in the business, do you see any avenue that could happen?
Yeah, you could get a bunch of antenna cops, and they could go around, and anybody that has an antenna just tack a note on their door that they owe the county extra money. Because
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the broadcast, the networks.
Well, the broadcasts of the networks, the main reason I believe that they did that, I wasn't privy to it. I was too darn young to even know what was going on. But it was just to make sure that Kingman got in touch with the rest of the world. Look at Lake Havasu City right now. Half the houses in Lake Havasu City have antennas. And it's not because they're getting cable. It's not because they're listening to this and watching this TV channels that are coming over the system.
I think one of the problems is that we really never did measure it. And according to the statute, you're supposed to. You're supposed to set the rate based on the use, and we've never done that. And again, I'm not really sure how we would do that, but we've never even tried, apparently. So I'm just looking for a way that this thing could take care of itself. We can give a tax break to the taxpayers and move on. And again, and then there's the other issue about the technology of it all. And can Jack Trahan come down here? Mr. Trahan?
If Mr. Trahan's here, he's more than welcome to approach the podium.
I'm sorry, I'm taking over your...
No, that's fine. It's we are not the rules Gestapo.
Hi, I'm Jack Trahan with WeCom.
And we had a little discussion about the future of broadcast. The technology is changing, and how do you see what we do in the future? And what's the future look like?
Looking at the future is, the county just, here in the last 5 to 10 years went through major changes from analog television to digital television so that the new digital formats would work on the current television sets that are out there for sale. And technology is always changing. Where it's going to go to, Supervisor Angie, is I really can't tell you. I don't have a crystal ball to look in the future. You and I did discuss a little bit about privatization, and after thinking about that for some time, I don't know how well that would work out. I can be honest with you. It's something that I haven't really looked at long and hard yet. This meeting came up kind of fast after our meeting, so I haven't really had an opportunity to look into really anything yet. So, but as far as technology, that's just like cell phones or anything else. It could go anywhere, really.
And how much, again, does it take to, as of now, to run a yearly? How much is it between the digital signals and the maintenance cost? What's about between $300,000 and $400,000?
Yeah, I believe so.
Right. So another thing I was thinking about, because, no change ever comes unless your back is up against the wall. So if we dissolve this and we go out and we really, really, leave no stone unturned and look at all the different ways we can do that, if nothing else, we can always put it back on the ballot and really see how much people want to pay for this. That's just, again, these are just ideas for discussion. I don't really think that there's any action. I just wanted to put it out there so we as a community can decide what we want to do for the future. And I wanted to thank you very much, and you do very hard work, I know.
Well, we're just here to do what the board wants us to do. So, it's up to you guys as members of the boards to make that decision. It's not my decision to make.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trahan.
You bet.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
is the mining inspector still there?
The mining inspector is still here. He is near the podium, and if he would bear with us, I hope he would approach and answer any questions you have for him.
Thank you. I guess one thing I disagree. I think Mr. Trahan might be talking about the figures of what we pay him for his of running the TV district, and the numbers I come up with the county expenses are about $700,000, and that would include the salaries, legal equipment, pool, engineering fees, legal fees, BLM fees, FCC fees, electrical, liability, land, rent, lease, others, communication fees, and that doesn't even encompass replacement costs. So my question to Mr. Hart would be, with those kind of expenses, could you even feasibly see anybody who would take that over and show a profit?
Well, mine's for sale right now if you're interested.
You're a heck of a guy.
This is something I just can't see. Like I say, we pay taxes and we expect some service back, and that's what the TV district has done. If we've got to raise taxes or something, let's do it in an upfront manner. But it's so hard to determine who is actually watching it until they start calling you and telling you that their darn TV is down, and what are you going to do about it? And I got to call Jack Trahan and ride in the back of his snowcat to get up to my transmitter site to turn my darn radio and TV back on. And the thing about communications and radio in particular, it's not the height, it's not the power, it's the height of your tower. And the height of the tower on top of Getz Peak, I mean, that covers a lot of people. You cover all of Wickiup and Wickenburg that gets some of it, all of the ranchers in between. It covers Golden Valley like a glove. It covers Meadview. I mean, there's just so many people that actually benefit from it that we can't
Then
measure.
how can you say that there's no value, that people, that a private company wouldn't, if it really has that kind of reach? And again, I do think that what we have, our assets do have value. I think 10, 15 years ago, it had a heck of a lot more value than it does now, and every year it's going down and down. What I'm asking is that we find out. We just gather information, find out what the value is, if there's any opportunity out there. I'm not looking to give it to a company that's going to go out and, compete with Suddenlink. I'm looking for a way that it can be self-sufficient. It could be a pipe dream, but again, I think that, we hear a lot from people who want it, but there's a lot of people who are against it. So I think that this is a good time to look into all of that, and that's why I'm going to ask.
Well, I commend you for doing your job, and you are doing a great job, each and every one of you, but it's a touchy situation, it really is, and I hope that we look at it long and hard before we make any decisions that would affect a lot of residents of Mohave County.
Thank you very much, Mr. What's that? I was distracted. I'm sorry, Joe. What's that? Yeah, before we wrap up discussion, Supervisor Angus, Supervisor Bishop would like to make a comment.
I just wanted to remind everybody that the state has surprised us with this budget shortfall that we're experiencing right now, and each one of the supervisors are looking at ways that we can meet our responsibilities and pay our household bills like anybody else. And I think the TV district is one area that we're looking at. We're also not wanting to raise property taxes. We don't want to increase sales tax. We are looking at everything, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions coming up. And I commend Supervisor Angus for bringing this up, and we're working hard trying to come up with answers to our household problems.
Well, I don't envy your job at all, and I appreciate everything that each one of you does for the county, and I just hope we can hold this thing together long enough to get a robust economy back and get an inland port at the airport.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Hart. I have a comment on this issue also. First off, I echo Supervisor's comments regarding the Trahan family. They're a wonderful family, and they're the backbones, they're the typical backbones of the community. And I also appreciate Mr. Hart's comments and the history he's provided regarding the TV district. This is not so much, in my mind, a balancing of the budget issue, though that does play a role. It's more of what is the appropriate role of a government. This is a grand philosophy issue. And it's my opinion that government is not about providing entertainment. If we're about providing entertainment, we are heading down the road of ancient Rome, where it's breads and circuses for the masses. And I think that is something that we need to resist with all our heart and all our might. The role of government in this particular year is we need to balance the budget, we need to reduce taxes so we can encourage a robust economy, and we need to reduce regulations if we can, so we can also encourage a robust economy. I believe that eliminating the TV district is the appropriate way to go. That would, for this year, balance the budget. It would also give a year, I believe, of revenue, maybe 2 years of revenue, in which that the TV district could services before they're terminated, in which to find a private provider if some person wished to earn their revenue by allowing advertisements to be run across their network. If it doesn't, I think that if there is not such a private provider, I think that lends credence to Supervisor Angus's statement that shifting technologies change. TV, the natural broadcast companies, they are going the way of the dinosaur. You can go on Netflix and you can watch an entire season of TV shows now in one day off your laptop. And there's probably things coming down the pike we don't even know about. We're on the wrong side of that mathematical equation. It's my proposal, will be my proposal as we get deeper into this budget session, that we vote to eliminate the TV district, that we use those funds to balance the budget, and that in the meantime, we have the item as to whether the TV district should be emplaced on the November ballot for next year, and let the voters decide. Because all the voters, all the property taxpayers are paying for that TV district, and it's my suspicion that a minute fraction are actually utilizing that service. That's my opinion. In the meantime, I think Supervisor Angus is correct, that we don't need to take any further action on item 48. I hope this will be a heads up to the public, so if they choose to engage with us supervisors, I know some people will change their mind. I'm stubborn, I won't. But, and Mr. Hendricks, in the meantime, when he's preparing his budget, can use some of these thoughts for his budget preparation processes. So thank you for that. Item 49, discussion and possible action. Ray, direct staff not to pursue the purchase agreement with Mr. Dietrich for a 40-acre portion of his 120-acre parcel number 101-23-002, which includes a water well in the Planet Ranch area of Mohave County for a purchase price of $120,000. Mr. Hendricks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at the last board meeting, we had this item on the agenda, and the board took no action. Director Nick Hunt sent a letter to Mr. Diedrich explaining to Mr. Diedrich that the board took no action at the last board meeting. In discussion with the county attorney's office and with the clerk, it was my opinion we needed to go ahead and formalize some sort of an action, whether it is to pursue this piece of property or not to pursue this piece of property, and staff is recommending that at this time we don't pursue it. Thank you.
Is there any member of the board who has a question for Mr. Hendricks or another person regarding this item? Supervisor Johnson?
No.
No. Saying that, can I have a motion on item 49 of the agenda?
Chairman Moss, I make a motion to direct staff not to pursue the purchase agreement with Mr. Dietrich for a 40-acre portion of the 120-acre parcel number 101-23-002, which includes a water well in the Planet Ranch area of Mohave County for a purchase price of $120,000.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 50, discussion and possible action. Ray, update of Mohave County's objection to the severance and transfer by Freeport Minerals Corporation of water rights pertinent to land within the Planet Ranch area along the Bill Williams River to the Big Sandy, which is starred as an executive session item, as well as item number 1, which was starred as an executive session item. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Chairman Moss, I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss item 50.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
Do we plan on coming back to the action? If not, I would request that we adjourn the meeting so that we can keep up with our television district and our broadcast so we don't have airtime.
County Administrator Hendricks, do you see any action item that we'll be taking at the conclusion of this executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I don't.
Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Folks, we're done for the day. Thank you for, well, the TV broadcast portion is done for the day. Thank you very much for your time.